You wake up in a cold sweat. Your heart is pounding against your ribs like a trapped bird. In the dream, you were standing in a room you haven't seen in years, staring down at a blank exam paper. The clock was ticking loudly, relentlessly, and you realized with a sudden wave of panic that you hadn't studied at all. Or perhaps your dream took place in a sleek modern office. You watched helplessly as your boss handed you a letter of termination. Or you walked into a crucial presentation only to find that every slide had vanished into thin air. You feel the crushing weight of public humiliation, the sharp pang of sudden worthlessness, and the sickening drop in your stomach as your entire world collapses. Then you open your eyes. You are safe in your bed. The morning light is filtering through the blinds. It was just a dream. But as you sit up and reach for your morning coffee, a lingering dark cloud follows you throughout the day. A quiet, unsettling whisper echoes in the back of your mind. What if that dream was a sign? What if it means I am secretly failing? What is my mind trying to tell me? Most people brushed off these nightmares as simple stress. They blame late-night screen time, that extra cup of coffee before bed, or a busy week at work. But one of the most profound thinkers of the 20th century, the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung, viewed dreams in a radically different light. To Jung, dreams were not random neural misfires, nor were they simple stress reactions. They were sacred, intelligent messages from the deepest hidden layers of your psyche. Jung spent decades analyzing tens of thousands of dreams, both his own and those of his patients. He discovered that when you dream of losing your job, failing an important test, or falling from grace, your unconscious mind is not attacking you. It is attempting to heal you. It is trying to deliver a vital wake-up call that your waking mind has desperately tried to ignore. To understand why your mind manufactures these terrifying scenarios, we must first look at how we live our modern lives. Every single day, you step out of your front door and enter the world. To survive and thrive in society, you build a public persona. Jung derived the term persona from the ancient Latin word for the mask worn by actors in classical theater. Your persona is the side of yourself that you present to the world. It is the polite professional, the high-achieving student, the responsible employee, the flawless leader, or the reliable family member. Having a persona is not inherently bad. It is a necessary psychological tool. It helps us navigate social expectations, maintain employment, and function as accepted members of our communities. The danger begins when you forget that the mask is just a mask. In our hyper-competitive, achievement-driven world, it is terrifyingly easy to over-identify with your persona. You begin to believe that you are your job title. You start to define your entire self-worth by your grade point average, your income, your job performance, or the opinions of your colleagues. When this happens, your conscious ego creates an illusion of complete control and perfection. You push yourself harder, suppress your human vulnerabilities, and demand flawless results from yourself every single day. You tell yourself that you must always be strong, always be competent, and never show a single sign of weakness. But while your conscious mind is busy polishing this perfect external image, your unconscious mind sees the truth. It sees the immense toll this performance is taking on your soul. It sees the exhaustion, the buried anxieties, and the parts of your true humanity that you have abandoned along the way. And this is precisely where the dream steps in. Carl Jung introduced a revolutionary concept in psychology known as the compensatory function of dreams. Jung believed that the psyche is a self-regulating system, much like the human body. Just as your body produces a fever to fight off an infection, your unconscious mind creates specific dreams to balance out the extreme one-sidedness of your conscious attitude. If you spend your waking hours acting like an invincible titan who never makes mistakes, your unconscious mind will forcefully pull you back down to earth while you sleep. It subjects your ego to the very thing it fears most: failure. Consider how strange it is that so many successful adults, years or even decades after finishing their education, continue to have recurring dreams about failing a school exam. You might be a 35-year-old manager, a respected doctor, or an experienced engineer. Yet in the quiet hours of the night, you suddenly find yourself back in high school math class, completely unprepared for a test. Why does this specific nightmare persist across different cultures and age groups? When you dream of failing a test you thought you had outgrown, your unconscious mind is using a powerful symbol. School is the ultimate place of judgment, evaluation, and external validation. In school, you were graded by authority figures based on criteria you could not control. When this dream appears in your adult life, it usually means your conscious mind has slipped back into a state of external performance anxiety. You are living as if you are constantly being tested and evaluated by the world. The dream strips away your adult titles, your achievements, and your adult confidence, exposing the underlying fear. The fear that despite all your success, you are still secretly inadequate, still waiting for someone in authority to catch you completely unprepared. The same mechanism applies when you dream of being fired or losing your career. Losing a job in a dream is a terrifying experience because, in modern society, work has become deeply intertwined with our identity. When you lose your job in a dream, your unconscious mind is staging a controlled psychological death. It is forcing your ego to confront a terrifying question. If your title, your status, and your professional standing were stripped away from you in an instant, who would actually be left standing in the mirror? If the thought of losing your status makes you feel like you would cease to exist, it means your ego has completely swallowed your authentic self. The dream of getting fired is a violent, necessary intervention by your own psyche. It is trying to break your toxic over-identification with your professional mask before that mask completely suffocates your soul. Jung observed a fascinating natural law of the mind that he called enantiodromia, a term borrowed from ancient Greek philosophy. Enantiodromia means that sooner or later, everything turns into its exact opposite when pushed to an extreme. When a person pushes their conscious mind too far in one direction, demanding absolute perfection, relentless productivity, and total emotional control, the unconscious mind will inevitably swing to the opposite extreme. The higher you build the pedestal of your ego, the more dramatic the plunge in your dreams will be. Think of a high-powered executive who spends 80 hours a week at the office, neglecting their health, their family, and their internal emotional life, all to maintain a pristine image of corporate success. Consciously, they feel powerful and untouchable. But in their sleep, their unconscious mind triggers an enantiodromia. They dream of being publicly humiliated at a board meeting, or losing their office keys, or watching their entire company dissolve into dust. The dream is not predicting the future. It is warning the dreamer that their life has become unsustainably lopsided. The unconscious mind is trying to restore equilibrium by reminding the ego of its own fragility and limitations. This brings us to another critical Jungian concept, the shadow. The shadow consists of all the parts of ourselves that we have rejected, repressed, or hidden away because they do not fit into our idealized self-image or societal expectations. The shadow contains our dark impulses and unacceptable flaws, yes, but it also contains immense creative potential, instinctual wisdom, and necessary human needs that we have neglected. When you live a life governed purely by the desire to succeed, you inevitably push a massive portion of yourself into the shadow. You push away your need for rest, your desire for creative expression, your vulnerability, your playful spirit, and your natural human need to make mistakes without being punished. But whatever you push into the shadow does not simply vanish. It accumulates power in the dark. It sits below the surface of your conscious awareness, growing increasingly restless. When you dream of failing, falling behind, or losing everything, it is often your shadow making its presence felt. The shadow enters your dreamscape and dismantles the neat, orderly world your ego has so carefully constructed. It throws a spanner in the works. It forces you to feel the embarrassment, the powerlessness, and the messiness that your conscious mind works so tirelessly to avoid. In a sense, the dream of failure is the shadow's way of saying, "Look at me. Look at the pain and exhaustion you are hiding behind your success. You cannot keep running from your own humanity." It is important to clarify that Carl Jung's approach to dream interpretation is vastly different from both superstitious mythologies and strict Freudian theories. Jung did not believe that dreaming of failure was a bad omen that promised financial ruin in your waking life. Nor did he believe, as Sigmund Freud often suggested, that dreams were merely disguised fulfillments of repressed sexual or aggressive wishes. To Jung, dreams were teleological, meaning they were focused on a purpose, moving toward a future goal. That goal is what Jung called individuation. Individuation is the psychological journey of becoming a whole, fully integrated human being. It is the process of synthesizing your conscious ego with the vast depths of your unconscious mind. Individuation requires you to step beyond the simple rewards of societal validation and step into your authentic, unique selfhood. But here is the hard truth that Jung recognized. You cannot achieve wholeness if you are terrified of failure. You cannot become an integrated human being if you only accept the parts of yourself that win trophies, earn promotions, or receive praise. When your unconscious mind plagues you with dreams of failure, it is actively pushing you along the path of individuation. It is forcing you to confront the reality of loss, imperfection, and vulnerability in a safe, simulated environment. It is asking you to build an internal strength that is not dependent on external success. So, how do you practically apply this deep psychological insight to your everyday life? When you wake up from a terrifying dream of failing an exam, losing your job, or suffering a humiliating public setback, what should you actually do? First, change your immediate reaction to the dream. Instead of waking up in a state of dread and trying to push the uncomfortable feelings away, pause and breathe. Recognize that your unconscious mind has just given you a priceless piece of psychological information. The dream is not a threat. It is a diagnosis. It is a mirror reflecting the hidden tension inside your life. Second, engage in honest self-reflection by asking yourself 4 specific, penetrating questions. Question number 1. Where in my waking life am I holding on too tightly? Look at your current routines, your work, and your relationships. Are you micromanaging every outcome? Are you demanding absolute perfection from yourself or others? If your dream involved a chaotic loss of control, it is a clear sign that your conscious mind is exercising a desperate, unhealthy grip on reality. Question number 2. What part of my authentic self am I sacrificing for the sake of status and security? Are you neglecting your physical health, your artistic passions, your relationships, or your need for simple, unstructured rest? Remember, the shadow will always demand balance. If you sacrifice your well-being on the altar of professional achievement, your dreams will continue to shatter that achievement until you listen. Question number 3. Am I afraid of losing my mask, or am I afraid of losing myself? Take a hard, honest look at your job title, your social standing, or your academic reputation. If all of those external markers were stripped away tomorrow, who would be left? If the thought of losing your external identity fills you with deep terror, it means you have allowed the persona to displace your true self. The dream is inviting you to reclaim your intrinsic value, a value that exists independent of your resumes, bank accounts, or test scores. And question number 4, what is the absolute worst that would happen if I actually failed? Often, our fear of failure is a gigantic, shadowy monster that thrives in the dark corners of our imagination. By forcing you to experience failure in your sleep, your unconscious mind is asking you to look that monster directly in the eye. When you mentally walk through the scenario of failure in your waking life, you often realize that failure, while painful, is rarely fatal. It is often the very doorway to growth, redirection, and genuine freedom. Carl Jung often emphasized that we do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The dreams that disturb us, the nightmares that make our skin crawl, and the visions of failure that wake us in the dead of night are not our enemies. They are the tough, unyielding love of our own inner psyche. They are light bulbs flashing in the dark basement of your mind, illuminating the areas where you have become rigid, arrogant, or disconnected from your true nature. The next time you find yourself standing unprepared in a dream classroom or holding a pink slip in a dream boardroom, do not panic. Do not let fear rule your morning. Instead, take a deep breath, thank your unconscious mind for its fierce vigilance, and listen closely to what it is trying to say. It is reminding you that you are so much more than your accomplishments. You are so much deeper than your job title. You are a vast, complex, and beautiful human being. And sometimes the only way to remember how to stand on your own 2 feet is to let yourself fall in your dreams.